The first-degree murder trial of Fernand Laplante opened the week after Theresa Lore's body was found in a Compton, Quebec culvert on Good Friday, April 13th, 1979. Many officers of the Sûreté du Québec called to testify were the same officers doing the grunt work on Theresa's case, knock and talks, preliminary interviews, filing paperwork. How many of them made the connection that the answers to the Compton murder were contained in the criminal process that was unfolding in the Sherbrooke court? This is Who Killed Theresa. As lawyers prepared to make their arguments, my parents were ordering Theresa's white coffin and making funeral arrangements. The judge and jury settled in to listen to the evidence. We were on Carey Boulevard in Montreal picking up Theresa's bicycle, which had been in the shop all winter for repairs. As we ate an early supper at Piazza Tommaso's, supper that was really a wake, the prosecution's star witness, Charland, approached the stand. This is what Charland told the court happened to Raymond Grimard and Manon Bergeron the night they were murdered on or about July 6, 1978, south of Lennoxville. Charland, Laplante, Mariel Valliers, and a man named Richard Gravel made a scouting trip to North Hatley on July 3, 1978, to scope out a bank branch they had targeted for an armed robbery. They returned the next day with a stolen car and 2 motorcycles after checking out another branch in South Sherbrooke. Fernand Laplante realized they had been followed when he spotted Agent Raël Chateauneuf and his SQ entourage lurking nearby, telling the guys, "We're getting the fuck out of here." Back in Sherbrooke, according to Charland, Laplante expressed the opinion that it was that piece of shit Grimard who narked on them, shouting that he had refused to participate in the holdup and as a general rule talked too much. On the evening of July 5th, Charland and Laplante met at the Moulin Rouge Hotel Normandy, where Laplante now proposed to commit a robbery at the residence of Mr. Nadeau on Chemin Astbury, south of Lennoxville, and suggested that they invite Grimard to join them. According to Charland, they walked to Grimard's house around 2 a.m., and Laplante spoke to Leloup Grimard in his room. Laplante, Charland, Grimard, and his girlfriend Manon Bergeron then left together in Grimard's Cadillac, the one that was registered in Bergeron's name. Charland stopped by his parents' house in Lennoxville to pick up a rifle that he said that belonged to Laplante. They then drove to the Asbury Road site. Once there, they realized that Charland had left the magazine cartridge for the rifle back in Lennoxville. So everyone got back in the car and returned to Lennoxville. Back at Asbury Road, Laplante and Grimard got out of the Cadillac. According to Charland, Laplante told Charland, "If you hear gunshots, honk on the horn." According to Charland, this would have been to mask the sound of the gunshots. Moments later, Charland said he heard gunshots, so he honked the horn. Laplante returned alone, and only then did Manon Bergeron ask what had happened. As Charland drove away, remember here, Charland is the wheelman, Bergeron started screaming that she wanted to get out. Laplante then hit Bergeron and instructed Charland to return to Asbury Road. This is the third time they're returning to Asbury Road. Once there, Charland said he could see by the headlights Grimard's body lying in the pasture. Laplante put a cord around Manon Bergeron's neck, dragged her out of the vehicle, and returned to get the rifle barrel, the stock of which had been detached. According to Charland, Fernand Laplante then beat Manon Bergeron to death using the rifle barrel. Laplante returned, and he and Charland drove off. When the Cadillac reached the Deacon Bridge at Route 143, Laplante threw the rifle into the Quaticook River. Laplante told Charland to abandon the Cadillac at the Lennoxville Golf Club. Laplante and Charland then headed toward the town of Lennoxville on foot. This is the testimony according to Jean Charland. Yeah, hashtag nude bathing. Yeah, not since Fibber McGee has such a tall tale been weaved. Fibber McGee. Yeah, I can't believe I'm using a Fibber McGee reference. I kind of, Tracy Wing does the French version of this podcast, and I sometimes throw in little jewels like that just to see how she'll react. And, she never says them. It's like, John, I'm not doing that. No one in Quebec is going to understand who the hell Fibber McGee is. C'est quoi ça, oui? Il y a trois, je comprends, c'est trois victimes et tout assailant. Il y a Bergeron, Grimard, Fernand Laplante, Charland, Cattle Factor et Fibber McGee. C'est correct, ça? We digress. I will say here. I mentioned that Tracy Wing does the French version of this podcast called WKT6. That was a very intentioned move to do a French podcast, which runs in parallel with this one, and is primarily followed by one of those Quebec, like one of those nostalgia Facebook pages you see. Hey, remember the town? Remember that old grocery store? Remember that guy? Every town has this. Sherbrooke has one too. So the French podcast has this like strategically placed there. No one listens to it on Spreaker. People on c'est quoi ça? C'est Spreaker? Spreaker? C'est quoi Spreaker? Spreaker? No one knows what the fuck that is. But they will listen on YouTube. And as I say, with the express intention of getting to like just quite directly trying to get a tip based on the weekly podcast informations I've been putting out since January. Well, this week, there'll be more on this, but I'm just going to say I got the mother of all tips related to this story, like the most confirming, unifying tip with all we've been talking. You couldn't ask for anything, not sort of like, I knew a guy who was bad, not that shit, not, I have a memory of Sherbrooke, it was a rough town. Not that, like the mother of all tips, from someone who said to me because I've been saying for weeks now, if you got any information, go to the police, which is what you do, which is what the police asked me to do. The guy did not go to the police. In fact, they expressly said to me, there's no friggin' way I'm going to the Quebec police because I don't trust them, but I'll go to you. So there you go. It's sometimes how these things work. Let's continue. In his cross-examination, defense attorney Jean-Pierre Rancourt got Charland to admit the attempted arson at the Aloha Motel, and his arrest at the scene was the result of a setup by a man named Lachance and the police. Jean-Pierre Rancourt then suggested something very interesting. He asked Charland if he did not find it curious that Grimard refused to participate in a bank robbery in the afternoon, yet agreed to commit a holdup in the middle of the night at a private residence. Like, who does that? Hey, it's 2 a.m. Let's go over to Grimard's house, see if he wants in on this action. Rancourt then argued that Charland had gone alone to Grimard's house the night of the murders, that there had been, in fact, 2 vehicles that night, and that there were 6 people at the Asbury Road location, not 4. So if you do the math, there's 2 victims, there's 2 cars, and then there's 4 individuals. Jean-Pierre Rancourt, by the way, has been following this story. He doesn't. I don't think he listens to the podcast. What he does do is he reads it on Substack. He actually provided me with some good feedback on last week's installment on the Aloha Motel. And I had to reassure him that I was going to. It's great information. I'm going to include it. I'm just waiting till next time. Because there's zillions of pieces of setup here, but we're getting to that. Jean-Pierre, rest assured. While in custody after the summer murders, Charland had bragged how he had, quote, peppered Grimard with bullets. Rancourt suggested Charland had never worked an honest day in his life, how as a member of the Gitans gang, he was accustomed to accepting contract payments for jobs, like the $2,500 for the Aloha Motel job. Rancourt asked him directly, did you have a contract to get Grimard and Miss Bergeron out? Charland stated that he did not, but then admitted there had been talk of making $1,000 or $1,500 quickly in the Lennoxville end. Apparently, no one could keep a secret in small-town Sherbrooke. SQ agent Noel Bolduc also had heard through an informant that a hit was being planned for July 4th at some location in the area. And this is odd. This informant, this wouldn't be Grimard, right? You don't say, hey, there's going to be a hit, and the hit's going to be on me, right? I mean, it's not I am Spartacus, for God's sakes. And anyway, if Bolduc knew of a hit in advance of the murders, so why wouldn't police then take action to prevent it? Unless, of course, you decide to turn a blind eye to it. And by the way, just exactly who was this informant, if it's not Grimard? On the question of Carole Facteau, remember her? Charland admitted that he lied to police and the coroner during their investigations into her death, saying he knew nothing. Charland admitted that Facteau had mentioned to him the possibility of filing a complaint with the police following the theft of Helen La Rochelle's car, in which he was involved while on probation. Charland added that he had confided to Laplante about Facteau, who allegedly told him that he might have, quote, done it. It's only after the Aloha Motel incident that Charland then gave a statement incriminating Laplante. So Rancourt asked Charland directly, which version is the real one? And Charland replied that he was now telling the truth in court. And this is the exchange in court that then occurred, which is included in Jean-Pierre Rancourt's book, Confessions of a Criminalist, which is a great read of a defense attorney in that era. So this is the exchange between Rancourt and Charland. I have one last question, Mr. Charland. Isn't it true to say that you are a liar? Yes, that's right. I should have asked that in the first place. Charland nodded. Yeah, case built on sand. Absolutely ridiculous. Continuing, if that isn't absurd enough, on April 23rd, 1979, the court takes a field trip to the site where the bodies of Grimard and Bergeron were discovered. And the photographs from La Tribune of this event they're surreal. With Fernand Laplante strolling through the country fields alongside Jean Charland. Charland appears to be in handcuffs. Laplante does not. So they're strolling through these fields along with the 7-man, 5-woman jury, like some kind of bellicose Ren festival or something. The jury had been bussed in on a charter supplied by the Department of Justice. And the court reporter, Jean Larose, brought along like this folding chair to add to this bizarre picnic atmosphere. Jean Charland was asked to point out the location where the bodies were found. He did so. He was asked where the Cadillac was parked when the bodies were disposed of. He did this too. And that's really all Jean Charland could possibly tell the jury about the dump site, as I think everyone probably knew that Grimard and Bergeron were not murdered at this location, as Charland had testified under oath. When the police took the stand in Fernand Laplante's trial, the jury learned that there were no bullets fired at the Asbury Road location and no rifle had been tossed into the Quaticook River, as Charland said. Sergeant Maurice Corbeil of the SQ testified that 6 police officers combed the trails, the fields, the undergrowth, and brush in the area on July 6th without finding any spent cartridges. Officer Ronald Sear said his scuba diving squad searched on August 8th and 9th, and then again on November 27th and 28th, and did not turn up any weapons above or below the Deacon Bridge. Corporal André Vallée added that further searches of the river on September 18th and 19th recovered a piece of weight with dimensions equivalent to a firearm thrown off the bridge by Constable Noel Bolduc in an experiment to see how far a rifle might travel in the Quaticook River, the running water. Meaning the dummy rifle was recovered, but not an actual rifle, because Fernand Laplante had never disposed of a rifle, as Jean Charland had testified. When Officer Réal Chateauneuf took the stand, he reaffirmed that he did not find any cartridges near Grimard's body. Chateauneuf told Rancourt that there may have been blood on the ground, but he did not notice that. It would be important to know that to determine if Grimard was killed there or elsewhere, suggested Rancourt. Like, no shit. It's a fundamental aspect of criminal investigations. At this point, Chateauneuf offered the "you can talk to my supervisor" tactic, like some genuflecting flunky, saying he had no theory on the subject and that it was really Constable Noel Bolduc's investigation, so the question should be put to him. Rancourt asked Chateauneuf why Jean Charland had initially denied knowing anything about the murder of Carole Facteau, and only gave a statement incriminating Laplante in her murder after the Aloha fire, when Sergeant Pierre Marceau had alluded Laplante had blamed Charland for her murder, which wasn't true. Basically, is this a normal police thing? Asked Rancourt. Officer Chateauneuf admitted that it was done from time to time. Chateauneuf then denied that the arrest of Charland on November 11th near the Aloha Motel was a setup organized by the police, which it was. It was Officer Raël Chateauneuf who found the $19 and piece of paper on Grimard's body with the phone number of Tricia Hall or Patrick Hall from the Sûreté de Québec. Remember, this was the piece of evidence that led people to speculate that Grimard was the informant. The fact that an SQ agent's phone number was located on his body, yet miraculously enough, nothing else, just that and $19. And an associate of mine with a firm knowledge of the criminal underworld in Sherbrooke has commented to me that, quote, "This seems too much and too obvious." And I agree. I suggest to you that this piece of paper was planted on Grimard's body, probably by the SQ, as a means of providing a motive for the murders and to disguise the identity of the real police informer. Residents of the homes in the area of the Asbury Road dump site were questioned as to what they saw or heard in the early morning of July 6th. Mr. Arnold Deacon and his daughter Terry reported that they were awakened by their barking dog at their home near the Deacon Bridge. The Deacons heard horns, possibly coming from Asbury Road, while a second vehicle was parked at the corner of Corval Road and Route 143. And to follow this visually, there's a map on the website, along with a lot of great visuals. There's photos of that that field trip to Asbury Road, etc. at theresaallore.com, TheresaAllore.com. Mrs. Deacon suggested that the exchange of horns at these two locations was probably the signaling of the two vehicles, which is pretty astute. So the Deacons heard horns and a dog, but no gunshots. The Deacons observed a car similar to Grimard's Cadillac traveling a few times between Corval Road and Asbury Road. They added that they also saw a man wearing gloves who approached the Deacon Bridge on foot and appeared to be talking to someone below the bridge. They did not notice anything being thrown into the river. And my question is, what were they doing under the Deacon Bridge? And sometimes I come across like I have all the answers. This one I'm stumped on. I have no idea what they were doing under the Deacon Bridge. If you have a theory, you know how to reach out to me. My email's on the website and I'm on social media. Shoot me an instant message or something, because I am stumped. During the coroner's inquiry, Constable Michel Poulain reported, and remember the coroner's inquiry had been back in the fall of 1978. He reported that he had photographed 3 different tracks of people under the bridge on July 7th, and none of these tracks matched the shoes of Fernand Laplante, which were eventually confiscated for the criminal process. And this information never made it to trial. It's also worth noting that Poulain found 4 identifiable fingerprints on the body of the Cadillac recovered at the Lennoxville golf course, and the prints did not match Laplante's. This information also did not make it to trial. Helen Achilles couldn't sleep that night because of the heat, and she also lived in the Asbury Road area. She testified that she saw a blue car drive by twice on Asbury Road where she lived. She noted that this vehicle honked its horn as it drove down the hill. Helen Achilles did not hear any gunshots the night of July 6, 1978. And later that summer, attorney Jean-Pierre Rancourt had a private detective conduct an experiment. Appears to be a lot of experimentation going on here. While a PI, Robert Bulak, sat inside the home of Helen Achilles on Asbury, he had his detective associate fire 9 rounds from a .22 semi-automatic rifle down the hill at Asbury, while another associate honked a car horn. Bulak and Miss Achilles easily heard the horn and the shotgun. It should also be noted that these detectives easily recovered their shell casings. On Friday, April 27th, defense attorney Jean-Pierre Rancourt called 20-year-old Luc Landry to the stand. Landry revealed that in a conversation at the Moulin Rouge in the summer of '78, Jean Charland told him how, quote, he riddled a guy behind the garbage cans on Wellington Street. And then Charland said Raymond the Wolf Grimard was actually a stooge for the police. At the time of this testimony, Landry was serving a 2.5-year sentence for theft, and his parole eligibility was fast approaching. Landry had originally been approached by agents Bolduc and Chateauneuf of the SQ, who asked him if he wanted to testify against Laplante, bargaining that they could possibly get him out early. When Landry told them his story, they changed their minds and told Landry to, quote, stay out of it, now insinuating that they could make things go very badly for his parole. Landry related how Bolduc and Chateauneuf punctuated their words with, quote, kicks and punches. So we now see that this is not the behavior of a few bad apples, but an institutionalized approach used by Quebec's provincial police force. Beatings were administered not only to players in the criminal underworld like Landry, Laplante, and Claire Dussault-Laplante, but also regular civilians like the hotel owner Paul Bergeron. Pettigrew's taxi stand was located along Queen Street in Lennoxville, across from the Georgian Hotel, and just down the street from the restaurant Chez Charles Disco Bob's, the place owned by Yvan Charland, Jean Charland's father. In the early hours of the morning of July 6, 1978, owner William Pettigrew was pulling the night shift when he saw 2 figures walking toward his cab, coming from the direction of the Lennoxville golf course. One passenger was Jean Charland, and Pettigrew noted that he was wearing gloves. The second passenger Pettigrew described as, quote, quite tall, with fairly long ash blonde hair and sideburns, and he had a tattoo on each of his arms. Pettigrew made 2 stops that early morning. The first was to Charland's home, or rather his parents' home, located at 26 Rue Champagny in a suburban neighborhood north of the St. Francois River, which is less than 2 kilometers from the Champlain College campus. After dropping Charland off, he then took the second passenger to the corner of Belvedere and Short Streets in Sherbrooke. Now, it is true that Fernand Laplante, for a time, once lived on Belvedere, a few blocks north of Short Street. But as we have seen, others also lived in this neighborhood, notably Luc Gregoire, Carol Facteau, and an Adams gang clubhouse was located nearby on Wellington. What Fernand Laplante didn't have were tattoos. In court, attorney Jean-Pierre Rancourt dramatically asked his client to stand up from the defendant's box and remove his jacket. Laplante did so, revealing his bare arms. The court went silent. It was at this point that Rancourt felt his case was no longer in doubt and he was going to be successful in the defense of Laplante. The jury seemed shaken. The Crown and police officers were stunned. Under cross-examination, William Pettigrew mentioned that Officer Noël Bolduc of the Sûreté de Québec had shown him a series of mugshots. Pettigrew did not identify Laplante or Charland, who were both in the deck. Bolduc suggested that this meant Pettigrew was unsure of exactly who was in the cab on the morning of July 6, but I'll put it to you differently. I think it means something else. Pettigrew was a reluctant witness, and he probably had no desire to finger a member of the Gitans and his accomplice, because everyone in that courtroom that day knew exactly who was tall, with long ash blonde hair and sideburns, and a tattoo on each of his arms. Attorney Jean-Pierre Rancourt knew it. The Crown, the judge, the officers of the Sûreté de Québec, they all knew it. It was Régis Lachance. So think of it. Who did contract jobs with Jean Charland, who worked with partners, Régis Lachance? Who was accustomed to taking taxis from the scene of a crime? Régis Lachance. He did it in the Aloha Motel arson case. In 1978, Lachance had long hair, blondish hair. He was tallish. His family says he had tattoos on his forearms, and one was a devil. In the piece we did, Kentucky Fried Murder, about the 1969 unsolved murder of Roland Giguère, I wrote, once again, it wasn't Yvon Charland's sons who murdered Roland Giguère, but it is possible that there were long-standing associations with criminal elements in Sherbrooke within the Charland family. Was Roland Giguère's murder just a crime of opportunity, or was it planned action to eliminate the competition? And competition for what? Fried chicken, restaurant domination, something more. Régis Lachance was exactly the person I had in mind in that case. He is exactly the potential suspect who was now in his 60s, as the Sherbrooke police said, that was encountered in the case, the one I imagine the Sherbrooke police had interrogated in their 2004 reopening of the Giguère investigation. In fact, La Tribune reported that the investigators met with two potential suspects, remember? So I believe one of them was Régis Lachance. Who was the other guy? On Monday, April 30th, Jean-Pierre Rancourt called his final witness to the stand. Régis Lachance did not answer the call. Lachance was under court order to appear. Police could not find him. Recall that Laplante was sentenced to 1 year in prison for such contempt of action. The bailiff, Claude Bolduc, reported that he had tried 3 times to serve a subpoena to Régis Lachance, and that he finally had to give the document to his wife. Régis Lachance had gone AWOL. This is who killed Teresa. Few housekeeping announcements this week. Keep you on your toes. As you know, the book Wish You Were Here, you can find it on the website, teresalore.com, was released in the United States this week. Did several press events this week. So I did an interview with True Crime Daily and with Crime Reads and the Daily Mail. And most significantly, between now and the next time we meet, myself and Patricia Pearson are going on the Tamron Hall show, which is daytime network television in the United States. That'll be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 11th of May. So midweek, we're going to go on there and talk to Tamara Hall. As I say, I think she cut her teeth in crime investigative journalism. She's personally invested in this. If you don't know Tamaron's story, her sister was murdered in Houston, Texas. So if you're tuning in, when it's finished, share the links and all that kind of thing. The other thing is I'll be doing a few book reading events. And the first one is 1 week from today, on May 14th in the afternoon. I will be at McIntyre Books in Farrington Village. I don't know how many people from North Carolina listen, but if you're in the area, I think there's some Charlotte listeners. And so if you want to get on Highway 64, Farrington is not far from there. It's kind of midway between Raleigh and Pittsburgh? If you're in the Pittsburgh area, you can come out 2 o'clock on May 14th. If the weather's nice, I'm going to ride my bike there, have a picnic, bring a folding chair, do some nude bathing. And there'll be towards the end of May, there'll be a reading in Chapel Hill, a reading in Durham. I don't know. There's a book. The Farrington one is a book signing, and I'll probably read 2 short pieces and answer questions, that kind of stuff. I have not done a live event. They've all been virtual because of lockdown. So this will be a kick. I'm happy to do it. I don't want to do a whole lot of them. And certainly they will have copies of Wish You Were Here available. And I'm happy to put my John Henry on it. If you like the podcast, you can give us the biggest solid you can do for me is you can now go to Amazon or Target.com or Barnes & Noble or Walmart, and for like about $13 you can buy Wish You Were Here, and you can also stop in there and give it like a 5-star review. That's the greatest thing you can do. I mean, selling books and all that is great, and I'm happy for it. I talked about a little of this in some pre-interview stuff. If it creates awareness, then that's great. But right now, and there's other stuff I want to do, but right now we're talking about Sherbrooke, Quebec, and I'm not, as I said, I'm not planning on leaving here until at least the summer. I'm going to stay firmly grounded in Sherbrooke because there's work to do. But for some people that may be a drag. You might be getting tired of this. But I want to solve some crimes. So, and also you can, if you follow us like on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, certainly when the Crime Reads piece hits, or the Daily Mail, or there'll be a link to the television interview, I'll post those so people can take a look at them. I don't think too many people can clear the decks at 10 o'clock in the morning midweek to watch my ugly mug on network television. So that's it. That's all we have for this week. This has been Who Killed Teresa? I am your host, John Allure. And you have yourselves a great, great day.